Hey, and welcome to map 30 of Doom 2, Icon of Sin. So here we are, we've made it to the final level of Doom 2, and as you can see, this opening room is kind of a welcoming area. But when you go through the teleporter, you are greeted by the Icon of Sin. So this is the final boss of Doom 2. This level is pretty simple. Enemies are spawned in from little cubes. This is the only level in Doom 2 where you can actually be telefragged, so you've got to be careful for that. The aim is to shoot 3 rockets into that exposed bit above the Icon of Sin's head. And as you can see, we're dealing with all the enemies here as they spawn, because once we start trying to shoot rockets into the exposed part of his head, it's going to get pretty messy, this level. Now, a whole bunch of enemies can spawn here. Up to Archviles in terms of difficulty. Archviles are pretty rare, but they can show up here. You can't get Cyber Demons or Spider Masterminds, which I think is actually a shame. I think that would have actually been quite fun if you'd been able to have Cyber Demons randomly spawn. But the worst enemies for me are the Pain Elementals, because they spawn Lost Souls, which are a pain in the ass. So you can see, it's pretty much luck based. If you can get a clear shot on the exposed part of the Icon of Sin, then great. If you can't, then you're going to be here a few times. You'll also notice, there you go, that's 1 successful hit, 2 successful hits. You'll notice on the left hand side, by the way, that the texture for the Icon of Sin isn't aligned properly. As you can see, this is not a very interesting level to look at. It's a toxic room with lots of ledges that you can bring down, but ultimately, like, this is not a particularly grand exit for Doom 2, and it's a bit of a shame, really, in my opinion, because map 29, the Living End, is so good for me, and like that sets up a really interesting boss battle. But there you go, we've destroyed it. It's just, I guess it's disappointing that, like, you go through all of Doom 2 and then you basically face the Icon of Sin. It's a texture on a wall with Romero's head behind it. It's disappointing, and it kind of shows that the development of Doom 2 towards the end kind of got rushed, because there's no way, in my opinion, that we went from maps like E1M8, E2M8 and E4M8 to this. There's no way, in my opinion, they would have just put this in as just a boss room, which is basically what we've got here. It's a boss room with no real level attached to it. And I think that it's not a great showcase for the end of Doom 2, because when you're riding up and down that elevator trying to shoot, that's an ability that's not really tested throughout the game. So the game's testing you on an ability at the end that you're not really practiced and trained in. So it's a very confusing ending for me. Like, if they couldn't be bothered to make a new boss sprite, I get it, but they should have at least fleshed out Icon of Sin in many, many different ways. So to kind of just show how other versions of Doom 2 handle the final level, I figured we'd look at the PS1 final level, which is Redemption Denied. Now, I've played this before, but I wanted to just show this next to Icon of Sin. I love this opening room. It's just so much more atmospheric. Now, whether you think this level is better than Icon of Sin really depends on how much you like taking on lots of enemies. Because in this level, there's a bunch of barons in the middle here that we have to get rid of. And as you can see, they can kind of teleport around the room a tiny bit. The problem for me is that, again, this isn't a particularly great final level for Doom 2. We're just going to grab all this ammo here. I'm not quite sure how they messed this up so much, but Redemption Denied for me it's a bit better in the sense that at least here you're being tested on the skills that you've learned throughout the game. Like I said, the one thing that annoys me about Icon of Sin is that you kind of have to learn to time your rocket shots, but where else in Doom 2 is that tested? It's not, and it just kind of feels like a very weird way to round out Doom 2, I guess. It's interesting as well because Doom 64 did make a custom final boss fight, and even though it's not particularly brilliant, I'd argue that at least it fits the theme of the game a lot better than Icon of Sin, and probably this as well. I'm not massively enamored with this level either, because it's basically just a big room with lots of barons in, and as you can see over there, the walls are coming down, so we get 2 spider masterminds. Now the trick here for me is to try and get these 2 to infight, because they can actually infight, and if they can take each other out for me, that would be really lovely. So I'm going to try and make that happen here. Like I said, I think TNT, in my opinion, does a much better job of the final level idea by actually putting a level before the Icon of Sin fight. I think this level's a bit too plain, but then again, like, this is the PS1 version of Doom, so it has limitations to take into account. You can see here that the Spider Mastermind here is trying to trigger a fight, but it keeps getting stopped by the chain gun fire. I guess at the end of the day, it really depends how much you like Icon of Sin levels, because a lot of Doom 2 custom WODs make use of Icon of Sin in various different ways, and I guess it really depends on what your tolerance for that is. Personally, for me, I just don't think it's that great a final boss, and this as well, like, once you kind of grab the plasma rifle and once you kind of know what you're doing, this level, it really isn't that difficult, but it's still pretty fun. And that's the end of PS1 Doom 2. When I say I like Redemption Denied better than Icon of Sin, that's generally because I don't rate Icon of Sin highly at all. In fact, I kind of put it on par with this in terms of just overall quality. It feels very slapped together. Redemption Denied feels a bit more purposeful, even if the execution feels very simple as well. It's a real shame that they didn't round out Doom 2 in a much stronger way, but I'd love to hear what you guys think of Icon of Sin's levels, and let me know which custom WODs you guys think do it best, because I might actually do a video where I play through them.